It's a pity they didn't release it.
We should do one on like Malaysian movies, facts versus what happened, and just talk about. Not dissing the movie, it's just talking about it from a historical point of view.
I tell you one topic that hasn't been touched on: the true story of Mat Saleh.
People will not like
Because
the true
people
story.
are confused,
So this one is about Sabah Football from the 70s to 80s, is that right?
Yeah.
We call that 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
Okay lah, cool.
Nobody really talks about Sabah Football, right?
I only knew about it in the 90s when I was into it. Alright, okay, kick this off. Today is a very different what's the story of our history. We have our established historian, Aftar, and we're going to talk about a very different topic today. We're going to talk about the Sabah football history from the 70s to the 80s. So, Aftar, I want to know, how did you get involved with this?
Well, I grew up in a household in KK. My father was a footballer for Sabah in the 1970s. And so I don't remember the early years of Sabah Football. What I do remember is the late 70s.
Late 70s. So
when I grew up a little bit
78?
more. I was,
Yeah.
about there.
Yeah.
And then, so he was captain of the Sabah team at that time. He was a right back,
Ooh.
playing right back for the team. So I mean, it was a pretty strong team. And even the Sabah team towards the late 70s was already really strong. From back to front. I mean, it was a very experienced team. It was a very talented team. And it wasn't just James Wong and Hassan Sani. There were many other players that made the Sabah team complete. And it wasn't just Peter Raja. Everybody keeps talking about Hassan Sani and James Wong and Peter Raja. And they were fantastic players, but there were many other people in the Sabah team that made the team what it was.
Yeah.
And you don't usually talk about them. People don't really talk about these guys. But very important components. We even had a German coach. I'm just trying to remember his name. Was it Gert Schmidt? Or maybe I'm wrong. But we had a German coach, a very youngish coach. We had Stanley Chu. We had an administrator named Philip Kim. A very nice gentleman, Philip Kim. And there were a lot of people that helped make Sabah what it was. The late 70s. The Sabah team was playing in the Borneo Cup, the annual Borneo Cup against Brunei and Sarawak. I think we did pretty well in those tournaments. I remember going to one Borneo Cup where we played the tournament in Kuching. I remember that. I remember we flew separately. The team flew in a Malaysia plane from just Kota Kinabalu to Kuching, and then we came later. I remember it was a Sabah Air aircraft, I think, twin-engine aircraft.
I'm still surprised that there was a Sabah Air aircraft. I know of Sabah Air as helicopters, so I never dug into the history of it.
But it wasn't a Nomad. It definitely wasn't a Nomad. It was. I know we had to climb the doors and the two engines on the sides. It was not a Nomad.
Not like an Otter or anything.
No, probably a Cessna or something.
Oh,
like that.
smaller one.
Small plane. So
okay.
I remember it was me. What was the pilot? It was me, my mom, and another player's wife, I think, that came. So we flew separately. But I can't remember if we left before or after the place.
If it was a Cessna, how long? Do you remember how long it would take to go to?
Cannot remember.
Sounds like.
I don't remember if I sat in front or in the back. Even that also I cannot remember. But I know we got on the plane, we went to Kuching, we watched the tournament, we won the tournament, Sabah won the tournament. And I remember we came back to KK first before the players came back because we were at the airport when they landed. I remember my father and another player came out of the plane, and they don't do this anymore. I've never seen it happen where the crowds are outside the aircraft and the players are walking out with the trophy, two players holding the trophy and everybody's celebrating. I've never seen that ever happen again. And those were wonderful moments. We had such a this is sort of the prelude to the Olympic team that qualified for the Olympics, where you have the Ola Bola controversy, which was just, when I didn't watch the film when it came out. I only heard about it, but I just thought that was a little bit unnecessary to do. But, it is what it is.
But because they were saying it was inspired by, not follow factually.
Yeah, but why?
Yeah.
Why do it?
Yeah, why change the names and stuff?
How does it benefit the makers of the film to completely omit two Sabahans that actually created the winning goal?
Yeah.
How does it help? How does it make the story better? But anyways, it is what it is.
We should deep dive into that later.
Yeah. But anyways, we had Manchester United at Lika Stadium.
What year was that? when you came? Because I don't remember.
79 or 80, maybe 81. It was that sort of period.
1981.
You know, and yeah, as a young boy, my father was captain, so I would be in the changing room before the games that we played, halftime, just sitting there, and just watching and listening. And
How young were you back then?
6, 7 years old.
Oh
you know,
man,
very
you
young.
were around all these players.
Yeah, and then at the end of the game, sit there. You know, I mean, just being around the players and watching what's going on. I grew up in Likas. Our first home was in Kampung Likas, and Likas had a football team, Likas United. And I would eventually play for Likas United when I came back from the States later, much later. And I played for Sempelang as well, in Sembulang.
Oh.
So, you know, it was, a lot of them had a lot of old friends, former players, Sabah players or Sabah youth players involved. So it was the relationship carried on from that period. You know what I mean? And then, of course, my father retired from football. We moved to Labuan, so I lost track of what happened after that with the team. I went overseas to sort of the mid-1990s. I came back sort of just at the height when the team was sort of picking up steam. We had a young, talented team. I think Jahim was the manager. Kelly Tam was the coach, and Justin Ganai was his assistant.
Justin Ganai, yes.
You know, and we had an up-and-coming team with a lot of young talent. And we you know, that time we were producing a lot of young talent. All the associations in Sabah were generating players.
Quality talent.
Labuan, for example, we had a really good youth system. My father was the president of the Labuan Football Association, and we had a very good youth system. So, I mean, there were young players, Junaidi Tua, Gapur Muhammad, we had Ramlan Silamat. So we were producing quality players, especially defenders. And they all got established with the Sabah team. You know, but at the same time, other players were coming from other districts as well. The Laban brothers, Harun and Andrew Laban. You had Bobby Chua, who was a very much a utility player. Bobby Chua wasn't the most talented players around, but he was a hard-working player. He was a utility player. So you could, Bobby, I need you at right back for the last 10 minutes. I just want you to mark that player. Bobby, I want you to chase after the ball. You know, pressure the goalkeeper. Bobby would do it. You know, he was that kind of a player. You had Herman Limos, again, not the fastest, not the most talented player, but hardworking, very hardworking. So we had a lot of talent, you know, at that time. So I sort of came back and I got involved with handling the sponsorship, the team sponsorship, because they had signed with Adidas that period of time. So I wasn't there for the first year. I came for the second year, and I got involved with the designing of the jerseys for the team thereafter.
When you say team sponsorship, right?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to know what is involved in the team sponsorship.
So Adidas, you know, Adidas had an office, a HQ for Malaysia in Shah Alam.
Okay.
And they had taken over the rights for the brand in Malaysia from GS Gills at that time. So they established a huge warehouse and an office in Shah Alam. And they wanted presence in the Malaysian M League. So the M League had sort of been formed, the M League at that time. And so I think they sponsored Negeri Sembilan, and we had to do for Sabah here. So I oversaw the sponsorship here. So the sponsorship sort of value was about ringgit 1 million retail value per year.
This was in 90s?
Yeah. And but this included incentives. So if the team finished above a certain position, they got a cash incentive, and if they won trophies or the league, they'd get additional incentives. So a lot of incentive-based clauses in the agreement, but up to 1 million ringgit.
Okay.
So I would handle the design of the home, away, and third kits, which was a lot of fun. You know, you design kits.
Yeah.
And I want you to wear this. You know. And we would design the training kit, the track suits, the polo shirts, the training kits, and so forth. We would bring in the boots for the players, so Copa Mundial and World Cup boots for the players. But of course, not everybody wore the boots and stuff. Some players were, you know, under contract with other brands like Mizuno, you know, and so forth. So some players.
We had Sabahan players who were sponsored by other brands.
Yes, we did. I can't remember who. I know we had 1 or 2 players that had commitments with other brands.
Wow.
Yeah, we did. So, like, I'll give you an example. Cairo. The goalkeeper's name, Cairo? Yeah.
Yes.
So Khairul had really huge hands, so we had to bring in special size gloves for him, and he had really big feet as well. So we had to bring in boots that were bigger than
Just for him.
yeah, just for him. We didn't have those sizes at that time in Malaysia, but he was under contract with, let's say, Ul Sports, which is a brand from Europe that made footballs and gloves. So he was under sponsorship with Ul Sports. So yeah, well, he was sponsored by Ul Sports. And
Wow.
yeah. So I think that went on for like 3-4 years, and then the contract ended at some point in time. But definitely, I think there was also a changeover. I think there was a change in management. It was more political because PBS sort of got replaced by Barisan Nasional. And Sabah has always been political. So there was a handover of management. So we had somebody else come in as president. We had the old faces were still there for the most part from the association. So you had Sabah had like a committee, sort of a what do you call it? Sort of management committee. Sort of all the association presidents were part of this.
It's like a consultant,
Not a consultant,
overseer thing.
No, it's the I don't know, the inner circle. Anyways, so they had that. But there was a change in management at the very top. Elections were held. And this is sort of when Sabah went through this incredible period where we brought in a lot of quality players.
This would be the late 90s?
Mid-90s.
Mid-90s.
So we had players like, we signed Khairul Asman. He was the number 1 goalkeeper in Malaysia. He came, which is pretty incredible, the fact that we were able to sort of attract him to Sabah to play for Sabah. We had a really talented central defender called Vaseline. I think you remember him. Very good brain, very good footballing brain. We had Milomir in the center of midfield. We brought in Yap Wai Lun.
Oh yes.
Probably Malaysia's greatest defensive midfielder that we've ever had. We brought in a left fullback, Ong Kim Swee, who ironically now coaches Sabah. We brought in Scott Olrenshaw. Olrenshaw had come in actually probably a season or two before that. So, but it was just merely, I think everything came together at the right time. All these other players that were coming in and a couple of other players had left. And it was a solid team.
It was a dynasty, man.
So, you're sort of dealing with a team that's got a chance to win trophies. And you could see these guys like Yap Wai Lun, he's on a completely different level, and just very experienced, but his brain, the footballing brain, his tackling.
His IQ for footballer.
We didn't have a player like that. Yap Wai Lun was very special. Ong Kim Swee was a sort of player that didn't make mistakes very often. He just, again, good footballing brain, read the game very well, played very comfortably at left back, didn't really make many mistakes. I never really saw Ong Kim Swee make mistakes at left back, which is, I grew up as a fullback. I grew up in football growing up as a fullback, a right back, a centre half, and a left back. So when I look at other players playing, I can sort of pick out a good fullback, a good defender from a not so good one, and they were solid. We went through this period. We had a really good team come together, and Matlan was on fire.
Oh yes.
At that time,
he was all our hero. My school days, Matlan was the hero.
And it's what was interesting is that Scott Olrenshaw is a very different player from Matlan. But the thing is, they complemented each other very well. I don't know, and in football sometimes you don't actually plan these things.
Yes.
You either work well together or you don't.
The chemistry just worked with it.
It just worked.
Caused so much headaches.
Yeah, and then we had a really good coach that came in, a guy called Ron Smith, an absolute gentleman, and it was a pleasure knowing him as well. So I sort of saw all these things at that time. We were dealing with the team at that time. Got to see a lot of what was going on behind the scenes. Traveled with the team as well for away games. Sometimes, not always.
So your capacity with traveling with the team was
merely just to watch a match.
Because you got to travel with the team.
Otherwise we had no involvement with what happened with the team when they went for games. Absolutely no interest at all from a sponsorship point of view, because all the items, all the sponsorship, everything was handled in KK. So if we were going for a game, it's because we happened to be going for a meeting. They happened to be playing away in, let's say, Kuala Lumpur. So we'll probably go for the meeting and then go and watch the game after that, something like that. Rather than flying.
Just specifically for that.
Because airfare was so expensive at that time, very expensive, and only Malaysia Airlines was flying at that time, right, before AirAsia. So Yeah, so got to see one or two games away. I think went for a cup final where we won in Shah Alam. Can't remember if it was against Selangor or another team. But anyways, we won that. So that one, maybe 2 games we flew specially to watch the team for cup final. But yeah, it was a good time, a good period, watching all this happen. And of course, then everything fell apart after that. So
But that wasn't even the late 90s. That was still mid 90s.
yeah.
That means Sabah had a good solid 3-4 years.
I would say under Justin and Kelly, probably 92, 91, 92, going into 93. And then we had Ron Smith come in. And I think Ron kept Justin. Justin stayed on. Justin Ganai has always been the go-to guy in the middle of transitions between managers. I know, and he's always never complained. You know, is he a dato?
I would assume. I never
He
checked.
should have been a dato by now. I mean, this guy has given a
Given
lot,
a lot.
to Sabah. You know, but yeah, nice guy. But yeah, so everything just came crumbling down. You know, yeah, it was just an absolute disaster. What happened?
Can you talk about it? Because
Well, the match fixing and all the allegations, and you know, then FAM took action, and you know, I think
were they able to pinpoint which games were match fixed?
I cannot remember, you know, but what I do remember is we had heard about stuff going on, not specific players. There were a lot of rumors going around, but you know, this problem with match fixing is a lot of people will be surprised. It's not a new thing. It's been going on since the 70s. It's not new. A lot of people sort of, I think, maybe believe that match fixing only came about in the 90s. No, I would say it's been around for a very long time. I know it's been going on since the 70s. You know, there's specific things that happen that I know, having been
In the circle, you got to see certain things.
Yeah, but of course, I'm not going to talk about it because
Let's not go there.
yeah, you know, but what has happened has happened. But whatever it is, we knew there were things going on, but not specifically who, until the police arrest happened. So that was a bit of a shock to everybody that they went ahead and did what they did. But they must have had enough evidence and must have maybe got enough testimonies from people to be able to take action, I guess.
I think as kids, we were surprised that it blew up the way it did.
Yeah. Especially when they came after our players.
Yeah. And only targeted one. It felt like it was targeting one.
I never understood that.
Yeah. Why it was just him.
Even till today, there's been absolutely no evidence presented as to. We're talking about Matlan here,
Yes,
right?
Matlan.
Why is he the only person that got banned for
For
life?
life. And that means any other, even like your friendly matches, anything that has to do with football, he cannot represent, right?
So I if you're going to ban somebody for life, right? The proper system in place is to present evidence. He has been found to have done this. Show the evidence to the media.
Yeah.
Have a proper press conference. This is the reasons why we've banned him, why we've chosen, and there is an appeal system. You can't go and stop somebody because that is his bread and butter, right?
Yeah. It was his livelihood.
Your livelihood. And you go and take that away. So what does the person have? You know, what does he have to live for?
Can't even coach, if I'm not mistaken, lah.
I don't think so. And this is this problem, this match fixing actually comes back to FAM. It always has. I'm sorry to say, people may not like it. I've worked indirectly with FAM. I've gone for training programs at FAM. I've known coaches and instructors from FAM that used to come to Sabah to train our referees and also to run the coaching system. I think we have like A, B, C coaching levels and stuff. You know, you get to know them, you get to talk things, you sit in conversations, you know, and you listen to things, and a lot of things become abundantly clear. A lot of the problems that we have in football today comes back from FAM. You cannot run away from that fact.
Do you think it was, the theory I understood was it got to a point where match fixing was quite bad was because it became sort of not like their livelihood but something that they needed to sustain.
Well, it's no different You signing a contract to work for an employer, it can be any business. It can be a teacher, you can be a lecturer, you can be a government servant. It doesn't really matter. You've signed a contract, you perform a job and a duty, but at the end of the month, you don't get paid. Okay? Now, we're not talking about not getting paid for 7 days. We're talking about not getting paid for 2 months and 3 months sort of thing, right? All right? And everybody has family, everybody has financial obligations, people have car loans, house rentals to pay. How is a person supposed to survive if you don't pay their wages on time? It's not their fault, and it comes down to overspending. Just very poor financial management, overspending more than you actually can afford. And so we signed all these players, and we went through a period where we were not paying some wages allegedly on time. EPF was not being paid on time, and it grew significantly. I know that. But again, FEM did nothing. FEM didn't take action, and whatever that's been happening even recently with the Kelantan players not being paid on time, the KL players not being paid their wages on time, this is nothing new. It's an old problem. It's FAM. There should be a lot stricter and should be taking action. Well, we're not going to listen. You didn't pay your wages for your players last year on time. We're going to hold your allocation. We're going to watch and see whether you pay or not your players on time. If you don't pay, we are going to take over. We're going to pay the players. And then we will maybe reconsider whether to renew your license for the next season or stuff. I mean, there are many things that FEM could have done, should have done, never did do. For example, but the thing is, and I again come back to this, you cannot ban somebody for life from football and take away their livelihood without justifying it.
And he was such an amazing player with so much. He's done so much as well.
This is the guy that scored twice against England. How many other Malaysians have scored twice against England?
The England team.
I mean, come on. He's a generational talent.
Yes.
Players like him don't come along very often.
No.
I played. I eventually evolved into playing as a winger and striker. So I didn't play for Sabah Youth or Sabah teams. I came back from the US significantly later, so I missed those years. So I played for Labuan in a couple of tournaments. And I think I went through a process of having to go through a tournament in Labuan in order to then, I was sort of not really even thinking of even trying to go for trials with Sabah at all. It was more for fun, playing for fun. But I played in a tournament where the match was fixed.
What? In Labuan?
Yeah. I played in a tournament where the match was fixed, and without wanting to brag, I thought I was a pretty good striker. People that I played with know, even to today, they know how good a player I was. I was definitely not a professional player, but I was pretty good, I think. And I remember we had to win that game by 7 or 8-0. We had to score 7 or 8 goals to qualify for the next round. And we were short of 7 or 8 goals because some other teams had scored more or whatever, or maybe we drew. And I sat in the changing room and they were discussing it in front of me. Oh, don't worry, we've sorted it out with the other team and stuff. And I was just sitting like, what do you mean, So I played, and I could see, I mean, come on, the players were purposely falling over, making mistakes and stuff. But the thing is, me being me, I just ended up shooting the ball wide, missing on purpose and stuff. And the management got so angry with me at halftime, they took me off. Took me off.
Because you kept your integrity?
I couldn't play in a game that was fixed. I just refused to. So halftime they pulled me off, and the manager for the team was pissed with me. I was like, I'm just not the sort of person to do that. We won the game, I think 8 or 9-0. We qualified for the next round, but I never went back to the team. I just never bothered showing up after that. I don't even know who won the tournament. And I didn't talk to that person for more than a year. I was so upset with him and so pissed, and I couldn't believe that he was involved with these sort of things. It's just shocking to me, and we didn't talk for over a year. The person knows who he is. He knows, who that person is. He's from Labuan, but the fact is, it also changed the relationship between me and that person for life. So, yeah.
Wow.
because I sort of realized what he truly was as a person. So,
Wow. That's a lot to go through.
yeah, it's just shocking. But people that you trust and people you've known for a lifetime are involved with this sort of thing, and it goes on. But I mean, I'm sure it happens.
And that wasn't even a major tournament, right?
No. But it was important at that time, and it was a big tournament in Labuan. I think I had scored. I wasn't top scorer for that tournament. I think when we got to that particular match in the knockout, just before the knockout stage, this was our last group match. I probably had 3 or 4 goals in our group, and I mean, it was probably I may have finished top scorer. May have. I was having a good tournament, but the thing is, at the end of the day, what had happened, what I sat and watched and listened, just
Killed the game for you.
I stopped playing.
Yeah.
I didn't really play any more tournaments after that. And I haven't been to watch a Sabah game since 1996, I think. I've not been to any football games at the stadium.
So you just stayed away after that?
And in fact, I've not been to any Sabah games at all in Malaysia or even in KK at all since then. I refuse to go. So yeah.
There's one thing I'm curious a bit, going back to the history part. Before the company you were with, were involved with the sponsorship, right? Were there active sponsorships for the football team themselves?
I am not in this sort of man, not for this kind of volume. Sabah was previously sponsored, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory is not wrong, was with Mizuno.
Oh,
they were with Mizuno. Okay. And I think their contract came to an end. It just happened at that period of time. My father was the president of the Labuan Football Association. He was in business as well with Adidas. And there was a company that was handling distribution for Adidas in Sabah and Labuan. So everything sort of came together at the right time. And then there was a bit of pressure from Adidas Malaysia to say, hey, look, you guys handle one team in East Malaysia and we'll handle 1 or 2 teams in West Malaysia, and they were also sponsoring the national team.
Oh.
Malaysia was wearing Adidas for the longest period of time, right?
So was it hard to get Sabah on board, the football team on board? Or
I wasn't involved in that process.
Okay.
I wasn't here at that time. I came a year after the team had already signed with Adidas at that time. I came a year later back to Sabah, so I wasn't involved.
How good did the merchandise go though? The jerseys especially?
Well, so I had come back from the States and I had always been buying football kits since I was very young. So I already knew what the football jersey industry was like, how it was being done. So when I came back, one of the good things at that time that worked really well for us was that Adidas Malaysia had signed on with factories in Batu Pahat in Johor to produce products and merchandise, Adidas products that were made in Malaysia for the Malaysian market and for export. So Adidas was exporting out of Malaysia. So we could easily produce products in Malaysia for our general use. So we had a lot of flexibility with the designs and the color choices for the Sabah team. So I made a video explaining the process of some of the kit designs.
I'll put the link into this video as well.
So some people may find that interesting. So I was involved with maybe 3 or 4 of the kit designs. And so we would literally take color pencils, paper, and just sit there and color sketch the designs and the colors, and sort of sit there with different colors, which one looks nice for the team. We will get samples made at the factory, and within a few days we will get the samples in. We get a chance to touch the material, see the quality of the material. Yes, no, too heavy, too light, too rough, uncomfortable to wear in this heat. So everything was done locally.
So it was a proper design from scratch. It wasn't we take something, slap something onto it.
Well, so Adidas has had, and they still do until today. So we have what is called templates. So the Adidas templates for a season. So they would give you a catalog, a file. Okay, these are the templates that are available. And we had the flexibility then. And this was probably because there had just been a management change, an ownership change at Adidas. The former owner was a Frenchman called Bernard Tapie, and he had been forced to sell Adidas to another French gentleman. And the policies were very liberal at that time, so we could sort of choose which template we wanted. So we had this huge file with all the different designs and colorways available. So we had the flexibility to, well, let's go with this design or let's go with that design. So I was sort of choosing the designs. Ironically, good or bad, I'm sorry to disappoint. I'm sorry to disappoint some people, but a lot of the designs were based on Liverpool. What Liverpool were wearing at that time. You know, Adidas was sponsoring Liverpool at that time. And next year, Liverpool are going back to Adidas next season.
Okay.
Their contract with Nike ends, so Liverpool will reunite with Adidas next season. And a lot of the designs were inspired. The Sabah kit designs were based on Liverpool because they were sort of coming to the end of a cycle, But the thing is, their kit designs were unique, they were beautiful, and they fitted with what we wanted at the time. So there would be like maybe 8 template designs to choose from, and somehow we always went with designs that sort of were inspired by Liverpool. So
because I'm not much of a football player. I'm a basketball dude. But I remember the kits was something we kids in school were rushing to get.
Yeah.
And I don't remember after that era whether we have gone into hunting for jerseys like we did before.
No, I think the team was successful. So what I did at that time, and I had the flexibility to do this. We were the first in Malaysia to produce football kits to sell to our fans in Malaysia. We were producing the home jerseys, exact replica. They were not even, in the football industry today, we have what is called the player version, and we have the replica or the fan version. In the old days, we just used the word replica. So now the player version is what the players actually wear. So for example, Arsenal is wearing Adidas, but an actual player's version, so that's the same material and shape, cutting that the Arsenal players would wear. It's about 550 ringgit. And then you can get the fans version, which is what the replicas were, which is more for people that's loosely cut and a bit more comfortable.
More casual.
And they're about 280, 290 ringgit, right? So there's a 200 something ringgit difference. That time we were producing the exact same jerseys that the players were wearing. The supporters were buying exactly the same material.
Wow.
So because we all came from one factory, and we just mass produced. And we were the first to produce in Malaysia at that time jerseys for the team and the supporters.
I didn't know that you were doing for supporters.
Yeah, we were the first, and we were producing the Adidas kits for most. I think the first season we didn't with the we call it the frost kits. We didn't, but later on we did all the kits. So the jerseys would arrive from factory in KK. We would do the numbering locally. We would do the stitching, and we actually had to use super glue, and we had to stitch the Dunhill logos on the jerseys. Everything was done in factory here. The printing of the name, and I think that time we were sponsored by Outcome Perdana, I think, so we had to print that on the back, all the players' names and stuff. So all that was done here. And then the sizing, the numbering for each player was based on the shirt size. So everything was done in-house locally here. So if some of you may remember, Sportmart in Api-Api Centre was selling the jerseys, and Sportmart Labuan as well, all the home, away, and third jerseys. So we were mass producing it here, preparing, marketing here, and we sold out. We sold out
I remember it was fast.
Every kit that we put, every jersey that we've sold, home, away, and third sold out. So it was successful at that time. Again, we were pioneers for that in Sabah before anybody in West Malaysia had thought of doing it. So
you mentioned Dunhill, that branding, right?
Yeah.
Was the regulation where cigarettes and alcohol?
Not at that time. But still okay.
Well, when that regulation came in, right? Was it a very big impact in the football scene?
I think it affected FAM because Dunhill were a very big sponsor for FAM, for the M League. So I think they had to go with telecoms after that, So I don't think alcohol was involved.
Not so much. Mostly cigarettes.
It was just Dunhill. So when the laws came into place and Dunhill couldn't be involved in sport or on TV and stuff, I'm sure. It definitely did affect it, but by then we were no longer sponsoring the Sabah team. Once our contract came to an end, Nike had come into the picture. Nike were very aggressive at that period of time, and they wanted the Sabah team because the Sabah team was doing really, really well. And so they took over the team. Well, what had happened is this. The contract had come to an end and the contract period had lapsed. And so we were told by Sabah FA that yes, we're going to renew with you, but nothing was signed. So it was a matter of good faith. So we went ahead and kept supplying them with their goods. And then halfway through that season, we suddenly found out through third parties that the entire Nike management team had come from Kuala Lumpur to KK.
Oh no.
And they had gone for meetings with the Sabah FA management without telling us. And again, we found out through third parties, they didn't tell us. And so that really, really upset us at that period of time because it was seen as a lack of good faith.
Yeah, disrespect as well.
Yeah, but business is business, fair enough. But I think that it needs to be a sort of a lack. You've told somebody, yes, we're going to continue with you, but you don't continue. You go and do something else. So that pretty much ended the relationship between Adidas and the Sabah FA.
Yes.
And after that, when Nike took over, they never won anything under Nike. So I don't think they ever won anything under Nike. So
one of my core memories for the Sabah team was this was I think early 2000, where Sugar Bun in Gaya Street was still operating, and they actually played one of the final matches. I think it was the M League.
Okay.
But Sabah was playing. Just the fact that this Sugar Bun restaurant was playing it, and the masses of people that were there watching it.
Yep.
That were not in the stadium. There was not a mama shop. This was an actual restaurant.
Yep.
Which I felt I've not felt again now. It was like that era, that time where people were rooting for all the players. Everyone was so united to it. I think after that, it felt like the football kind of disappeared for a bit.
Yeah.
After that era,
But we're going through a revival now.
it's coming back slowly.
I think the last few seasons the team has done well. I think they've done really, really well.
The supporters are coming back.
Yeah, stadiums are full. I've never stepped into Lika Stadium to watch a Sabah game since 95 or 96 when Nike took over because we all felt really, really betrayed by what had happened. It was just very poor judgment on the part of the Sabah management, Sabah FA management, how they went about doing it.
They just burnt bridges.
It burnt bridges, and we just thought it was very because we had agreed on it's a gentleman's agreement. Yes, we're going to sign an agreement with you. You can carry on supplying us.
And
but
you
don't
guys
worry.
did.
So we did for 6 months, and then they went and did that. So that was just. But the thing is, end of the day, sometimes life is what it is. You do that to people, and then it comes back to haunt you later.
They didn't win any games.
They didn't win anything after that. They really didn't. And. Again, it doesn't really bother me to the extent. I think back then I was pretty pissed off about the way it was done.
Yeah, the business side.
But
of
after that, it's like I didn't even bother about the Sabah team. I didn't really bother about. And at some point in time, I just stopped caring about Sabah football.
Oh, that's sad.
No, just no interest because of what had transpired with the match fixing, the team just going downhill after that, instability in the management of the team and stuff. But. It is what it is. But the team's going through a revival. It seems to be better managed and stuff. Players are more professional now. They're using data and all that for analyzing players' performances and training and fitness and all that. Times have changed. Everything is very different. But again, I have no interest in going to watch the team at all. I'm quite perfectly happy watching the English Premier League or the German Bundesliga. I'm perfectly happy doing that. I don't want to go to a stadium and sit there and sweat. And rains, traffic jam, parking problem. I'm in a different stage in life.
What was your happy moment, being in the circle, being able to see behind the scenes? Like, what was one thing that you felt being part of it, being part of the football circle?
Being a part of a winning team. Being part of a very, very professional team with very talented players.
Because you were there at the start of that winning to the peak. Yeah.
Sort of. So I came at the end of the first year that we had signed with them. I came sort of year 2, and we were just starting to pick up, And Kelly Tam was still coach manager, with Justin and Jahid Jayan. So. And then we went through that transition period. So I got to see that the best years.
Was the camaraderie very strong at that era?
I think so.
Damn.
That was what we were very fortunate. There's a general belief you want to build a winning team, you need to build a spine, right? So we had the best goalkeeper in Malaysia, and Khairul is amazing. We had an amazing defender in Vaseline, and I think he played alongside Gapur Muhammad, if I'm not mistaken. Gapur's from Labuan, local boy. I've known Gapur since he was very young. And then we happened to have Ong Kim Swee at left back, very solid left back.
The foundation was correct.
So we had a nice balance in the back. And then you go to midfield and we had Yap Wai Lun. And Yap Wai Lun is probably the ultimate professional. And that time, Yap Wai Lun, it's not so much also his tackling, but his football brain. Ability to read situations and stuff. So when you put Milomir, who was a very good passer of the ball, next to Yap Wai Lun, you have a very nice midfield. And then you got two guys that just cannot stop scoring. Scott and Matlan. Okay, and then you got Harun Laban. Harun Laban was a very good player, a very talented player. And then his brother Andrew was a defender, who's also a solid defender. So I mean, when you have a spine like that, it's a recipe for a winning team, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So yeah, it was an amazing period. It was wonderful to see, but it's good to see the team doing well.
Yeah, the revival is real.
And it's kind of strange. Ong Kim Swee now is a manager, so that's really really weird. But good for them.
Well, it shows that you need somebody from the dynasty to bring a new dynasty in together.
I just think he reads the game really really well. Like I said, if you go back and look at matches that Ong Kim Swee played, for example, at left back, he rarely made mistakes. He rarely got. I'm speaking as a fullback, right? He rarely got caught out of position, which happens to a lot of defenders, especially fullbacks. You sometimes get caught out of position, you misread situations. Ong Kim Swee didn't make those kind of mistakes, which tells you they had a good football brain, and he could look at situations and know where he needed to be. So same with Scott, same with Matlan, and but Yap Wai Lun, I mean, so the guy doesn't get enough praise for how good a player he was. He was a very small size player, but the brain.
Our kids era, we were all Matlan and Khairul. We were the goalkeeper, the striker.
Yeah.
That's what I remember the most.
Yeah, but Matlan, like I said, you don't run into players like that very often. They're very special. So
born with the talent to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for your time.
Oh, no worries.
This has been enlightening for me because I've always known it from just a superficial point of view. But I'm very much amazed by the sponsorship issues, knowing the match fixing issues, and all the other stuff. So thanks for your time, Aftar.
No worries.
And ladies and gentlemen, this has been What's the Story of Our History with a different perspective. Football. Peace. That was cool.